Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm JB Hoops, and today I got my Big Board 2.0 with the top 58 draft prospects in this upcoming 2022 NBA Draft. There's only 58 prospects because two teams have forfeited their second round picks. I've broken the prospects down into tiers. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's get right into tier 6. Coming in at 58, I have the power forward out of Arkansas, Jaylin Williams. He's 6'10", 240. He's a great rebounder and has also shown that he can be a good playmaker in the short roll. He's a good rim protector and versatile defender, averaging 1.4 steals and 1.2 blocks per game. He puts up 10.6 points and 9.7 rebounds a game, along with 2.7 assists. He's not a consistent three-point threat, but he can hit it, and his touch around the rim needs to improve. But at 58, he's definitely a great value pick. Next up, I have the Georgetown wing, Aminu Mohammed. The freshman is 6'5", but he's built and plays like he's 6'10". He has a strong frame, he's a great slasher, and an excellent rebounder for his size. He has a pretty good all-around offensive skill set and is a decent shooter, however on pretty low volume. He's not very efficient and he's undersized for his play style as he plays more like a skilled 4, but he puts up 14.1 points per game along with 8 rebounds and almost 2 steals. But this late in the second round, a wing who can do it all is definitely a great pickup. Now at 56, I have the senior out of Alabama, Keon Ellis. He's 6'6" and really skinny at 175. He's an elite athlete though, and also a solid defender. He hits a 3 at about 36% and puts up 12 points per game along with 6 rebounds and almost 2 steals. But because he'll be 22 on draft day, I think he'll be picked up a little bit later in the second round. Coming in at 55, I have the 7-foot center Orlando Robinson out of Fresno State. This man is a beast. He can hit the 3, he's a good rebounder and plays solid defense. He's not an elite rim protector or shot blocker, so that's why he may slip a little bit. But with the importance of shooting for big men these days, I think he would definitely be picked in the draft, and he's excellent value at 55. Coming in at 54, I have the sophomore out of NC State, Dereon Seabron. The 6'7" wing is a great athlete and has a unique playstyle as a slasher. He's a good rebounder, has an elite first step, and has also got very good decision making and a solid handle, and he's shown some promise to potentially play a point forward role in the NBA. The one thing holding him back is his shooting ability. He's only hitting threes at around 26% and often relies on driving to the basket. He's putting up 17.7 points per game along with 8.3 rebounds and is a good defender, so I definitely think he'll be picked up in this year's draft. At 53, I have the big man out of the G League Ignite program, Michael Foster Jr. The big is 6'8", 250 and is a strong and versatile forward. He's a good athlete, a really good rebounder and an elite shot blocker. He's also shown some stretch big potential, being solid in the mid-range and hitting a few 3-pointers at 31%. He's putting up 14.8 points per game along with almost 9 rebounds and 2 blocks. And if he's not drafted, he'll definitely be a priority undrafted player for teams to pick up. For 52, I went with Peyton Watson. He's 19, 6'7", and really hasn't done a whole lot this season. I really hope he goes back for another year. He's a good defender, an excellent athlete, and has shown a few flashes of a good offensive game, but he doesn't get enough minutes, and he hasn't shown a whole lot to justify taking him much higher than this. At 51, I went with the 18-year-old 6'11" center out of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Yannick Nzosa. He's long, athletic, and mobile, and has elite defensive potential. He moves the 4 at an elite level, is able to get up to any shot, and that kind of defensive potential is needed in the NBA. Whilst he hasn't gotten a whole lot of playing time and done much during it, his potential, wingspan, athleticism, and raw skill set is just too great to pass up on. At 50, I have the sophomore out of Marquette, Justin Lewis. He's 6'7" and 245, really big guy. He's a solid shooter, great rebounder, and has a huge frame. Despite him being built like a football player, he's quite athletic, he's a good defender. He also has a 7'2" wingspan, which helps him guard bigger players. He's putting up 16.4 points per game, along with 8 rebounds and almost 2 assists. He's a bucket and he's shooting 34% from 3, and his skill set and versatility fits the current NBA, so that's why I got him at 50. Coming in at 49, I have the junior out of Mississippi State, 22-year-old guard Iverson Molinar. He's a great scorer and self-creator. He's a good playmaker and a solid athlete, and he's good in the pick and roll. His craftiness and ability to score off the dribble will be very sought after in the NBA. The drawbacks with him is he's only shooting 28% from deep, but last year he shot 43%, so I think he'll increase that in the NBA. And the fact that he's 22 might hold some teams back. But he's putting up 18 points per game along with almost 4 assists, and he's an absolute bucket, so getting him at 49 is going to be a steal. At 48, I went with the junior out of UCLA, Jaime Jaquez Jr. He's 21, 6'7", 225. He's a good scorer, physical player, great defender, and just has a solid fundamental all-around game. He can do it all. He's putting up 12.2 points per game along with 5.3 rebounds, 2.2 assists. He's only shooting 29% from 3 this year, but last season he shot 39%. I think this is definitely an outlier time this season, and his size and versatility can definitely help a team picking him up in the second round. At 47, I went with Trevion Williams, the senior out of Purdue. He's an elite passing big and a great rebounder. He also has good touch around the rim and a solid all-around game. He could be used in the NBA as a Draymond Green type on offense, so I'm not really sure about this type of pick and how NBA teams view his value, because unlike Draymond, he doesn't have the defensive versatility and skill, and he hasn't shown a whole lot of three-point range, although he is shooting him at 46%, but only on 11 attempts for the season. At 46, I went with the 6'7" sniper out of Italy, Gabriele Procida. He's a good athlete, good rebounder, and a solid defender. I think he will be much more of a role player in the NBA. He's an elite shooter though at 43% on the season, but his defensive versatility and size would definitely be very appealing to a lot of NBA teams in the second round. At 45, I went with Michigan big man Moussa Diabate. He's 6'11", 210, and is a skilled and athletic center. He's also a very versatile and high IQ defender, and a good rebounder. He's putting up 9.4 points per game along with 5.7 rebounds and almost a block. He's a good rim protector, and he's shown his ability to knock down mid-range shots and potentially expand his range to the three-point line, which he's hit at just 21%, but his mechanics look solid, and I definitely think he has a role in the NBA. Next up, I went with the sophomore out of St. Joe's, 6'7" guard, Jordan Hall. He's versatile, a solid three-point shooter, and has elite shot creation ability and great size for a lead guard in the NBA. He's putting up 14 points, 6 rebounds, and almost 6 assists, shooting 40% from the field and 36% from 3. He has great passing instincts, a very good handle. The reason he's not any higher is he is very turnover prone, and he's also not very effective in the pick and roll despite his good passing instincts, athletic ability, and ability to shoot the three. I think it's mainly because he struggles to get to the rim and he's not a great finisher when he gets there, and will be a good pickup for whatever team gets him. Next up is Jabari Walker. The 6'8" sophomore out of Colorado is an elite rebounder. He's a versatile defender with great size and a 7'4" wingspan, allowing him to defend on the perimeter and inside. He's putting up 14 points per game, along with almost a steal and a block, shooting 47% from the field and almost 80% from the line. He's a good athlete, a capable shooter at 31% from 3, however he can be quite undisciplined with turnovers and fouls. For the final guy in Tier 6, I went for the junior out of Colorado State, David Roddy. He's 6'5", 250, built like a house. He's a great finisher and a great ISO scorer. But the thing that gives him the most value is his elite 3-point shooting. He's a great shooter off the catch and off the dribble, and he's hitting threes this season at 47%, which is insane. He's also very versatile. He's a good rebounder, solid passer, and a good defender. He's putting up 19.4 points per game along with 8 rebounds and 3 assists. And surprisingly, he's also a pretty good athlete for his build. The drawbacks with his game are he's undersized for his play style and being only 6'5", and he's also 21 years old, so his ceiling might be a little bit lower than other prospects. And the shooting efficiency is insane, but teams will question how sustainable that is in the long term in the NBA. Starting off tier 5, I have 19-year-old 6'4" guard Matteo Spagnolo out of Italy. He's a great shooter, has a shifty handle, and is a good pull-up shooter. He's averaging 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists on the season, shooting 50% from the field and 45% from 3. He's a very solid athlete and a good playmaker. He's also a very aggressive finisher and gets to the line with ease. He's definitely been rising up my big board, but I would just hope to see him cut down on the turnovers and reckless fouls. Coming in at 40 is 6'3" guard out of the New Zealand Breakers, Hugo Besson. He slipped, I think, 15 places from my last big board, but his shot making is still there. He's a streaky 3-point shooter, but his quick release and confident shot will definitely get him to the league. He's a good athlete, has the ability to play on or off the ball, and can finish around the rim. He's putting up 14 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 1.5 assists per game. But his percentages have slipped a little. I think he's at 38% field goal and 33% from 3, which would be the main concern in the NBA, especially since his shot selection isn't great and his offensive consistency is questionable. At 39, I went with a freshman out of Michigan, Caleb Houston. He's 19 and 6'8", he's a solid spot-up shooter, he has great passing instincts as well, and has shown a few times that he can create for himself. However, he's not a great athlete, which might lower his draft stock a little bit. But he's putting up 10.7 points per game, shooting 41% from the field and 37% from 3, and shooting is pretty much invaluable in the NBA. At 38, I have Christian Koloko, the junior out of Arizona. He's 7'1", 225, athletic and huge defensive presence. He has a 7'4" wingspan and can block a lot of shots. He has great hands and is a great lob threat. He's also a great offensive rebounder and will just be a solid energy big man from the jump. He's averaging 11.7 points per game along with 7.3 rebounds and 2.9 blocks, shooting 60% from the field and 72% from the line. With not a whole lot of big man talent after the top 3 in this draft, he definitely could end up going in the first round. Next up at 37, I have another prospect out of the New Zealand Breakers, Ousmane Dieng. He's 6'9", 185, and a big wing with the potential to play a point forward role in the NBA. He's been terrible this season, but just judging off flashes in his previous showings, he's a good athlete who can move around the floor very well, and he's shown at times that he can be a versatile defender. But his ball handling and shot creation potential will definitely get him some looks in the first round, because this season he's shot the ball terribly. He's been very turnover prone, and he just cannot finish at the rim at all. At 36, I have another international big man, Ismail Kamagate. He's 6'11" and has great size, and he's extremely athletic and mobile. He's a good rim runner, great at finishing in the pick and roll, and has pretty soft touch around the basket, especially with his right hand. He also has good passing instinct and is a good offensive rebounder, but for some reason he's just not very good at getting defensive rebounds. But he's also a very good rim protector, putting up 1.4 blocks per game. And with his 7'5" wingspan, a lot of teams will be interested. He's also hit a few shots in the mid-range and shown some potential to expand his range to the 3, although he has not attempted one this season. With averages of 10.9 points per game and 5.6 rebounds, shooting an insane 66% from the field, he'll definitely get some looks higher up with the lack of good big man talent outside the top 3 in this class. At 35, I went with one of my personal favourite prospects, Alondes Williams, the 23-year-old senior out of Wake Forest. He's 6'5", 210 and an extremely strong player. He's a great scorer and playmaker, has a shifty hand and is an excellent athlete. He's putting up 19 points, almost 7 rebounds and over 5 assists per game, shooting 52% from the field and 31% from 3. He's really good at finishing at the rim, but what hurts his draft stock is his shooting at only 31% and the fact that he will be 23 years old on draft night. But we have seen recently with Chris Duarte, for example, that teams will kind of ignore the age thing and just take talent that has a chance to be impactful right away in the league. And I think he can definitely do that. At 34, I went with Max Christie. He's 19, 6'7", and has shown some potential to be a great shot creator. He's also a good athlete and a solid defender, but his playmaking hasn't looked great. I haven't watched a whole lot of him, and he hasn't shot the ball well this year at Michigan State, only averaging 9 points per game, shooting 38% from the field and 31% from 3. But his size, length, and shot creation ability will definitely get him drafted early in the second round if he's not taken in the first. Next up, I have the junior out of Kansas, Christian Brown. Christian has looked really good this season, and he projects to be a versatile role player with a solid all-around game in the NBA. He's also a very good athlete and a good defender. His versatility, size, and skills will definitely intrigue a lot of teams in the early second round. He's putting up 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists, along with a steal and a block per game, shooting 51% from the field and 35% from 3. He's not a great shooter, however, and is more just a catch-and-shoot guy, but he will definitely have a role and be very impactful early on in his career in the NBA. At 32, I went with the 20-year-old junior, Julian Champagnie. He's 6'7", and has a 6'10" wingspan. He's an extremely skilled scorer, and is just a bucket at the college level. He's putting up 19 points and 7 rebounds, along with almost 2 steals and over a block per game. He's shooting 41% from the field and 36% from 3. He's a very good defender, and with that scoring prowess and size and wingspan, he'll definitely get some looks in the first round. Now to the first pick of the second round, and final person in Tier 5, I have the 6'7" senior out of Ohio State, EJ Liddell. He's 6'7", 240 with a 7-foot wingspan. He's built like a truck, but is versatile and has elite skill set. He's shooting 38% from 3, and so definitely will have a role as a pick and pop 4 in the NBA. But he also has great touch and finishing ability around the rim. He's a good passer and a versatile defender, blocking 2.5 shots per game. He's also averaging 19.3 points and almost 8 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field. I've seen a few people have him up even higher as the lottery. I'm not so sure given he's 21 and he's quite undersized, but I think he definitely has a chance of rising into the first round for me, and I really like him as a prospect. Alright, on to the first person of Tier 4 and the last pick of the first round. I have Stanford's Harrison Ingram. The 19-year-old freshman is 6'7" and 230 with a 7-foot wingspan. He's a strong and versatile forward. He's also a very good ball handler and playmaker with potential to play the point forward in the NBA. He's a solid 3-point shooter, but his stats this year have been quite inefficient. He's averaging 11 points per game along with 6 rebounds and 3 assists and a steal to go along with it, but he's only shooting 40% from the field and 31% from 3, so could definitely look to improve there. But I think just with his potential to be a glue guy in the NBA, do whatever the team needs, and not be a high usage guy, he definitely has a chance to be picked towards the end of the first round. At 29, I got Bryce McGowens. He's 6'6", 175 and an elite bucket getter at the 2-guard position. He's an elite athlete and has a high IQ, and he can score in a variety of ways in the mid-range, from 3, and at the bucket. He's putting up 16.9 points per game along with 5.3 rebounds, shooting 40% from the field, but only 28% from 3, but I think that could definitely improve in the NBA. He's pretty turnover prone and has been pretty inconsistent on the defensive end, but a lot of that is just effort and a better team environment because he is on a pretty bad Nebraska team. Next up, I have the best shot blocker in the nation, Auburn's Walker Kessler. He's 7'1", 245 with a 7'6" wingspan and is leading the nation in blocks per game at 4.7. He's quite mobile for his size, he has good touch around the basket, and has shown some potential to hit the 3 ball. He's also a very good screen setter and just a versatile defender in general. He's putting up 11.8 points per game along with 8.2 rebounds and a steal, along with them 4.7 blocks, and has been vital to the defense of one of the best teams in the nation in Auburn, forming one of the best front courts in the nation with Jabari Smith Jr. Coming in at 27 is a freshman out of Alabama, J.D. Davison, who happened to have dunked on the person I have just below him in Walker Kessler. He's 6'3", 19 years old, and an explosive high-level athlete. He's fast in the open floor, has an extremely quick first step, and great vision. He's a strong finisher, but he just struggles with consistency. His shot has been either on or off. His decision making has been a really significant problem, and he just makes a lot of bad mistakes and racks up a lot of turnovers. He often plays too fast and out of control, but he's averaging 8.6 points along with 4.8 rebounds and 4 assists, shooting 48% from the field, a lot of it because he's so good at finishing, and just 29% from 3, but he's actually been pretty solid when he gets open looks. But with his athleticism, playmaking and slashing, I expect him to be a first round pick regardless of his poor performance this year. At 26, I have another newcomer to my top 30 in Malaki Branham, the 6'5" freshman out of Ohio State. He's a good athlete, an intense defender with a 6'10" wingspan, and is an elite 3-point shooter, however it's on pretty low volume. He's also very good in the mid-range, has a great handle, and is elite at finishing at the basket, putting up 12.6 points per game, shooting almost 50% from the field and 44% from 3. This man is a bucket and has really turned it up recently, and getting the recognition he deserves. I'd like to see him improve his passing and his defensive consistency, but for now I have him going late in the first round. Mark Williams comes in at 25. He's 7 foot, 245, and a great vertical athlete. He's also a very solid rebounder and an elite shot blocker with a 7'7" wingspan. He's averaging 11 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 3 blocks a game, shooting 72% from the field and converting on 75% of his attempts at the line. He's a good rim runner and an elite lob threat. I think he's one of the best center options outside the top few guys, but his lack of offensive skill set, his concerns with mobility guarding the perimeter, and inconsistent touch around the basket are probably the reason that he might not go till late in the first round or even possibly early in the second. Coming in at 24, I have Kennedy Chandler. The point guard out of Tennessee is 6 foot with a 6'5" wingspan. He has a very quick first step and is a solid 3-point shooter off the catch. He's comfortable playing on or off the ball. He plays under control and is a solid defender with active hands. He's putting up almost 14 points per game along with 4.7 assists and 2.2 steals, shooting 45% from the field and 33% from 3. However, he's pretty short coming into the league at just 6 foot, and I don't even know if he's 6 foot, might be a little less. And he doesn't get much lift on his jump shot, so I'm just concerned with that. And the fact that he's a poor free throw shooter at just 63% is a little bit concerning. I think his height and lack of self-creation from the perimeter might deter some teams from taking him closer to the middle of the first round. Wendell Moore Jr. comes in at 23. The junior out of Duke is a 6'6" player with a 7-foot wingspan. He's skilled and developed with the ability to play multiple positions. He's a great scorer off the dribble and has great vision and playmaking instincts. He's also a very good defender and a great shooter, shooting 40% from 3. He's putting up 13 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists tonight, along with 1.5 steals, leading one of the top seeds in the nation and kind of controlling their team as a whole. His numbers have dropped a little bit recently. I don't think it should hurt his stock. And the fact that he's a junior might also hurt, but he is only going to be 20 years old on draft day, and he has very minimal flaws, so I think he should definitely be a first-round pick. Next up, I got Yohan Montero, the 18-year-old 6'2" guard out of the Overtime Elite program. He's a creative scorer, great in the pick and roll, with a shifty handle. He's also, from what we've seen, a good shooter, but I just find it really hard to evaluate him because of the competition level he's playing at. And what he's showing in the Overtime Elite, there's no real way to evaluate if any of that will translate to the league. We've seen he has a questionable shot selection, he can be quite undisciplined on defense, and his effort level is questionable, but I think that's just because of the low-level competition. So he slipped a bit for me. I think going to the Overtime Elite might hurt his draft stock, but the late first team will definitely take the risk and take him on. At 21, I have Nikola Jovic. That's right, not Nikola Jokic, Nikola Jovic. He's a 6'10" wing out of Serbia and a super skilled offensive player. He's a good shooter, a solid playmaker and ball handler. However, he's struggled tremendously over the past month. His 3-point percentage has dropped from about 40% to 32%. So he's now averaging 10.2 points, 4.3 rebounds and 3.4 assists, shooting just 38% from the field and about 32% from three. The reason I've dropped him is he's also not a great athlete and his defense leaves a lot to be desired. So if the shot's not falling like it hasn't been recently, he's not really helping the team a whole lot, because outside of his self-creation, creation for others, his size is not really doing a whole lot for your team. At 20, I have another Duke player in 18-year-old 6'4" guard, Trevor Keels. He has a 6'7" wingspan and is a great defender. He has a Lou Dort type frame and is very good in the pick and roll. He's one of the best players in the ACC on the defensive end. He's a great playmaker and has shown he can hit shots from deep. I don't think his percentages really reflect that at just 32%, though I think he came off a big game today, so it's probably a bit higher. He averages 12 points, 4 rebounds and 3 assists, shooting just 41% from the field and 66% from the line. But the main concern with him is his finishing at the rim. It hasn't looked great, but I think with his strength, athleticism and skill, like Lou Dort, who struggled for the first few years of his career finishing at the rim, he could eventually become a great finisher at the rim. Next up, I have Patrick Baldwin Jr., the 6'9" wing out of Milwaukee. He's super talented offensively with great size and mobility. I think he can be a Michael Porter Jr. type in the NBA. He only ended up playing 11 games this season due to injury, and I think only 4 in 2022, so it's a little bit difficult to judge, especially since he was on a pretty bad team and facing worse competition. But he did not put up great stats in those games either, putting up just 12 points, 6 rebounds on terrible efficiency. But I think most project him to be a solid shooter, good passer, and a capable and versatile defender. But from what we've seen in the 11 games, he struggled to create for himself, but I think some of that was to do with the lack of talent surrounding him, making him get easier looks, and the defenses locked into him as he was their main offensive threat. I think another concern would definitely be the injury history. Coming in at 18, I have the 6'5" guard out of Notre Dame, Blake Wesley. He's a big combo guard with a near 7-foot wingspan. He has great offensive creativity and scoring instincts and a shifty handle. He's very unselfish and is a capable shooter from deep at 33%. He's putting up almost 15 points along with 3.5 rebounds and 2.5 assists, shooting 41% from the field. But a lot of the concerns with him going into the NBA will revolve around his shooting touch. He's shooting just 65% from the line, which isn't great at all. He settles for a lot of threes and only hits 33%, and he also struggles to finish through bodies in the lane. But his handle and scoring instincts, he's just going to be a bucket getter at the next level. I really like him, that's why he's the top guy in Tier 4. Starting off tier 3, I have Marjon Beauchamp, the 6'7" wing out of the J League Ignite. For this whole tier, I'm constantly switching where I have guys, but for now I've got Marjon at 17. He's a skilled slasher and scorer, a high-level athlete. He's very strong in transition and has a great first step. He's also a very solid rebounder for a wing at 7.3 a game, and he's a versatile defender with a 7-foot wingspan. He's putting up 15 points, 7.3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, along with a steal and a half, shooting 57% from the field, but just 24% from 3 and 65% from the line. So the main area of improvement for Marjon would definitely be his shooting touch, being a more consistent shot maker and increasing that efficiency, but also ball security, as he does have a little bit of a loose handle and is a little bit turnover prone. But teams will love his defense, athleticism, and energy and size. Next at 16, I have the freshman out of Baylor, Kendall Brown. He's 6'8", is an exceptional and explosive athlete and a talented defender. He can switch 1 through 4, but he also has great vision and passing instincts and is elite in transition. He's also a very good cutter. He's putting up almost 10 points a game with 5 rebounds and 2 assists, shooting 59% from the field and 36% from 3, although it's just on 1 attempt per game. The main issue with Kendall Brown is his lack of shot creation ability. A lot of people view him to be more as a role player in the NBA rather than a star, but I think that's fine. Realistically, with the 16th pick, all you want is a good rotational NBA player, but his ceiling would definitely improve if he can confidently and consistently shoot the 3 ball. At 15, I have Kendall Brown's teammate, Jeramy Sochan. The forward out of Baylor is 6'9", 230, and has great size and an NBA body with a 7-foot wingspan. He's a very good athlete and a versatile defender who can guard inside and the perimeter very well. He's a very good rebounder, pulling down 6 a game, and I buy into his jump shot in the NBA level. He's shooting just 30%, but his mechanics look solid, and I think his shot will be alright in the NBA. He's putting up 8.5 points per game along with 6 rebounds, over a steal, and almost a block per game, shooting about 50% from the field, but what concerns me the most is his free throw percentage at just 59%, so you would definitely like to see that improve. Coming in at 14, I have the best senior in this draft, Ochai Agbaji out of Kansas. He's 6'5", 215 with a 6'10 wingspan. He's an explosive athlete and an elite shooter. This man has been elite this year, and I think he deserves some lottery love. He's a 3-level scorer with elite 3-and-D potential in the NBA. He's putting up over 20 points per game along with 5 rebounds and almost a steal, shooting 49% from the field and 43% from 3 on 7 attempts. The only reason this man isn't any higher is his draft age, obviously at 22. He's also not a great playmaker, and his free throw shooting is at just 76%. But with this man's athleticism, versatility on the defensive end, and insane shot making ability, I think he should be a lottery pick, and that's why he's at 14. Next up at 13, I have the 6'6" guard out of the J League Ignite, Dyson Daniels. He's a great all-around prospect. He's a versatile and skilled defender with a big wingspan. He has a good floater that he uses a lot, and he's very unselfish with good vision. He's also shown he can be a solid spot-up shooter, despite only shooting 26% from 3, but his shot looks okay. It's just a little bit slow, but that can definitely be worked on. He's putting up over 11 points per game along with 6 rebounds and 4.5 assists, shooting 45% from the field, and on the defensive end bringing in 2 steals and almost a block per game. The Aussie prospect, like Josh Giddey, plays at a little bit of a slower pace and isn't super creative off the dribble, but he's a big wing who can play multiple positions, defend really well, with a high basketball IQ. Right ahead of him is Tari Eason, the sophomore out of LSU. He's 6'8", 215 and a strong and athletic combo forward with a solid all-around game. He's a very versatile and switchable defender, racking up 2 steals and a block per game. He's an excellent transition scorer and has a high IQ on defense and with the ball. He's also a very good free throw shooter at about 80%, and he's converting on 36% of his threes. So if he has a good showing in March and looks good in the combine, I think he could even rise up into the top 10. He's putting up 16.8 points per game along with almost 7 rebounds, shooting 52% from the field. Tari Eason has minimal true flaws besides his 3-point shooting consistency, but I think it looks good, I buy into it, and he's one of my favourite prospects. At 11, I have the top prospect out of the G League Ignite, Jaden Hardy. The 6'4 combo guard has a 6'9 wingspan, and he's an elite shot creator and tough shot maker. I've seen a lot of people drop him down into the 20s, but I think he's just too valuable of a pick and has too much shot creation potential and star potential in the NBA to justify dropping him out of the lottery. He's a very good athlete and has a strong pull-up game. One of the areas of his game which I think is the most underrated is his playmaking. He's a very good passer, and although he averages 3.5 turnovers a game, I think with some strong coaching and mentorship from NBA guards, he'll turn into a very good player. He's averaging just under 18 points per game, along with 4.5 rebounds and over 3 assists. Shooting just 35% from the field and 27% from 3, but it's on a lot of shot attempts and he takes a lot of tough shots, so I definitely think that can increase in the NBA with less workload. He's also a very solid defender when he's switched on, but he needs to improve his decision making and shot selection and just defensive consistency. I think that can all be improved with effort, intensity, and good coaching. So for the final guy in Tier 3, I have the 20-year-old freshman out of Kentucky, Ty Washington. He's a 6'3 combo guard with a 6'9 wingspan. He's a very solid outside shooter, although his shot hasn't been falling recently. He's also a good playmaker. He racked up 17 assists in one game, which was like a Kentucky record or something. And he's also an active defender, and his 6'9 wingspan helps a lot with that. He's a very solid athlete and very good at finishing around the basket, and he can be effective on or off the ball. He's putting up 12.5 points, along with 3.5 rebounds and 4 assists, shooting 47% from the field and 35% from 3. I think he is probably one of the best point guard prospects in the draft, especially if you consider Jaden Ivey a 2. He doesn't have an ideal first step to blow by defenders, but he makes up for that with his craftiness and ability to finish at the rim, and his 3-point percentage is down about 6% over the last month. But I think his shot looks good, he can get it off pretty well, he's great off the catch, and he's improved off the dribble. Starting off Tier 2 with an honourable mention to Kentucky guard Shaedon Sharpe. He only joined mid-season and isn't going to play his freshman year. And the reports are he will be playing at Kentucky next year, but because he is draft eligible, given his potential and projection as a top 5 pick or so, there is a significant probability that he might declare for this year's draft, and in that he would definitely be a lottery pick. But for now, I've left him off it. Now we move on to Tier 2, and the first guy I have at number 9 is Keegan Murray, the sophomore out of Iowa. He's 6'8", 225 with a 6'11 wingspan, and he's an absolute bucket. I really think I might have to move him up with the way he's been playing recently, not missing from 3, playing great defense, but for now I have him at 9, but I expect he might move up even to like 6 or 7 by the time my next big board or mock draft comes out. He also has a very solid handle, and he's agile and smooth. He's a very good rebounder, pulling in almost 9 a game. He has very good touch around the rim, which has been his main way of scoring for most of the season, but he's also a great outside shooter at about 37% from 3. Keegan Murray also has elite footwork and is a versatile high IQ defender that can guard inside and out. He's also a decent shot creator for his size and is very effective in the mid-range. He's averaging over 23 points a game this season, along with almost 9 rebounds, over a steal and 2 blocks per game, shooting 56% from the field and 37% from 3. I really don't think a team would go wrong with Keegan Murray. The only downside is he's not a super explosive athlete, he's not much of a playmaker, and he is 21 years old already, so a bit of an older prospect, but I really like him. Coming in at number 8, I have Jalen Duren, the freshman out of Memphis. I'm really not sure where to put him on my big board, because I think the top 3 is pretty solidified, except for maybe Jaden Ivey might crack it if the team's desperate. But outside of them, there's not a whole lot of big man prospects in the lottery, so I think that might leave Jalen Duren to be picked a bit higher. But in getting him, he's 18 years old, one of the youngest guys in this draft. I think he actually might be the youngest. He's 6'11", 250, and a physical specimen. He's an explosive athlete and a great lob threat. He's a powerful finisher, dunking everything around the rim. He's also an excellent rebounder and an elite shot blocker with a 7'5" wingspan, averaging 2.5 blocks a game. He's also a very underrated passer, especially in the short roll, and he has shown the potential to expand his game with some jump shots. He's hit a few mid-range shots, and I like his mechanics. He's putting up 12 points per game along with 7.5 rebounds, a steal and 2.5 blocks, shooting 63% from the field and a decent 61% from the line. I think the downsides with him is obviously his raw offensive skill set, but he's only 18, so there's a lot of time to grow, and he's poor free throw shooting at just 61%. But other than that, he probably is the best center prospect in this draft, if Chet is classified as a power forward. Next up, I have the sophomore out of Arizona, Ben Mathurin. He's 6'7", 210, and an excellent athlete and self-creator. He could be the ideal 3-and-D wing. He's a very efficient finisher and a great jump shooter, hitting the 3 at 38%. Along with that 38%, he's putting up 17 points, almost 6 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, shooting 47% from the field. He's a very well-rounded prospect. The only major area of improvement would be his playmaking, shot selection, and his finishing ability in transition, because he's quite inefficient despite having elite physical tools. Coming in at 6, I have Johnny Davis, the sophomore out of Wisconsin. The 6'5" 2 guard is a big-time shot maker. He's a strong and well-rounded tall guard with a nice handle. He's elite in the mid-range and kind of operates a little bit like Devin Booker. He's a great rebounder, averaging over 8 a game. He's very active off the ball on cuts, and he's a big-time scorer. He averages over 20 points a game with 8 rebounds and 2.5 assists, along with a steal, shooting 44% from the field and 33% from the 3, with most of them shots being extremely tough. The downsides of Johnny Davis's game are he often relies on making tough shots, he's not very shifty off the dribble, and at times just struggles to get by defenders and get to his spots. But I think with that type of self-creation ability, we've seen what guys like Devin Booker can become, so I think he's definitely firmly in the top 10 and at 6 for me right now. AJ Griffin comes in at number 5. The freshman out of Duke is just 18 years old. He's 6'6", 220 with a 7-foot wingspan, and he's an absolute bucket. He's an insane athlete with a strong build. He's also a very versatile defender and has a polished game with great touch around the rim, and he's an elite 3-point shooter. He also has a very high basketball IQ and always seems to be making the right play. He's averaging 11 points a game, 4 rebounds, with half a steal and half a block, shooting 51% from the field and almost 50% from 3, which is insane. All this in just 22 minutes a game as he was coming off injury to start the season. The concerns with AJ right now are mainly his athleticism, coming off a sprained knee in the preseason. He hasn't looked as athletic as he was in high school, but I think that injury might be affecting him still. He also doesn't get a whole lot of lift on pull-ups, but that also could be just due to his injuries. And the 49% from 3, that's amazing, but teams will question if that is sustainable. I think he's probably one of the best prospects in this draft, and I really like his potential in the NBA. Starting up tier 1, I have Jaden Ivey. The 6'4" guard has a strong frame. He's an elite athlete with an explosive first step. He's a very good slasher and scorer off the dribble, and he's elite in the pick and roll. He's an intense defender with a 6'10" wingspan, and he's a very good lateral mover. He's a very efficient finisher, but also a great 3-point shooter. He's averaging 17.5 points per game, along with almost 5 rebounds and 3 assists. And on the defensive side, a steal and over half a block per game, shooting 47% from the field and 37% from 3. Jaden Ivey's been getting a lot of Ja Morant comparisons. I don't think he's like that. Jaden Ivey's much more of a combo guard than a point guard, and I think he's more like a prime Oladipo potentially. He has to improve his decision making. He's not the greatest playmaker, and at times he just plays too fast for himself, and he also makes a few mistakes playing off-ball defense. But he's been playing great lately and has moved up into my top 4. Next up I have Chet Holmgren, the 7-foot freshman out of Gonzaga. He's insanely skilled in all aspects of the game, has great shooting touch, is a solid passer, and a versatile and lengthy defender with a 7'6" wingspan. He's great at moving his feet on the perimeter, and he can stay with a lot of guards, but he also has elite shot blocking instincts, blocking 3.6 shots per game. He's also very good on pull-up jump shots, especially as a trail man in transition. He's averaging 14.5 points a game and almost 10 rebounds, along with 0.7 steals and the 3.6 blocks, shooting 62% from the field. A lot of that comes with his insane finishing at the rim, but also shooting 44% from 3, but a lot of his looks are wide open. For now I have him at 3, despite probably playing like one of the best freshmen in the nation, for the main reason being he's probably the most risky pick in the top 3, given his extremely thin frame, weighing only 195. He's a very high risk, high reward pick, but for now I have him at 3. Coming in at 2, I have Jabari Smith Jr., the 6'10" freshman out of Auburn. He's a mobile big and an excellent 3-point shooter. He's a very fluid mover, both offensively and defensively, with a decent handle. He's elite in the mid-range, and his smoothness, shot making and control looks a little bit like a young KD, although he definitely doesn't have the handle KD did. He's a great defensive rebounder and a versatile defender. He's elite at moving his feet on the perimeter and is capable of holding his own inside. He's averaging 17 points per game along with 7 rebounds, but also a steal and a block per game, shooting 44% from the field and 43% from 3. He's definitely the best big man shooter in this draft, and he can make all kinds of tough shots, pull-ups, step backs, off the catch, relocations, and he's definitely going to be a great player in the NBA. Although he is very well-rounded and great, he needs to improve his handle. That's what would elevate his game from being a second option to being a star in the NBA. He also needs to improve his strength to be able to defend NBA-sized big and finish inside. I really like him as a prospect, and he definitely has been number 1 for me a lot of the time, but it just keeps switching. But for now he's at 2. So that obviously means the number 1 guy on my big board is Paolo Banchero, the freshman out of Duke. He's 6'10", 250 and has a dominant build, kind of LeBron-esque. He's a do-it-all modern-day big man, but unlike Jabari Smith, he has a very tight handle, he's a great shot creator, and he's great in the mid-range. He can break down his defenders off the bounce, but he's also an interior force with his dominant build. He's also a very solid 3-point shooter, and I think he shoots better than what his percentages show at just 33% from 3. He's also a very solid playmaker from the post and in transition. He's very good at throwing lobs, which is something you don't always get with a big man. And whilst he's probably the worst defender of the top 3, he's still very competent and can move his feet and guard the perimeter and is solid inside. He's averaging 17 points per game along with 8 rebounds and 3 assists, with also a steal and a block per game, shooting 47% from the field and 33% from 3. Paolo's weaknesses are he's not super quick, he's very athletic and dominant, but he just doesn't have the foot speed to blow past great defenders like someone like Jaden Ivey could. He's also not a true rim protector or shot blocker like Chet, so I think he'll be more of a 4 in the league, but he also will be capable of playing the 5 in spurts in the NBA, especially in closing lineups. So that's all I've got for my Big Board 2.0. I've also made videos for the top 3 prospects if you want to check them out. Thanks for watching. I know this was a long video, but I got you 58 of the best prospects, in my opinion, for the 2022 NBA Draft. Leave a like, comment whatever you think, subscribe for more. The video took ages to make, and JB Hoops, out!